What's up everyone? I decided to do a video on tips and tricks of cutting hair at home or self haircuts. I have been thoroughly entertained by a lot of the videos that are going up right now about quarantine cuts, self cuts, things like that, and honestly I'm starting to think that a lot of people are doing it for the thrill factor, if that makes sense. Um, People are getting almost like a kick out of it, like it's a fun last minute thing to do or that everybody is cutting their hair. But for those of you who really do want some help, I'm here to provide that. So, um, not surprisingly, barbers or stylists aren't saying a whole lot on social media, which is understandable because barbers like myself would like you to come back to the professionals to get your hair done, but I figured that people are cutting their hair anyway. And so if you are going to cut your hair, which inevitably most people are because a ton of people have reached out to me already, then I might as well help you to do it somewhat better than what you would do. So, first things first is whether you're cutting your own hair or you're having someone else cut your hair, I do not recommend scissors and comb. And I've seen a lot of people saying that this is the best way to do it, plus people don't have maybe clippers at home. But if you're going to be committed to cutting your own hair, I would highly suggest being committed to purchasing a clipper and guard set. Now, with that being said, a lot of guys most likely have one of these at home, which is a beard trimmer or a neck trimmer, groomer, whatever it may be titled on your box. You do not want to use this to cut your hair. I have seen a few attempt to do the entire haircut with one of these. And the reason that being said is because this is like 1 inch in diameter. That would be the equivalent to trying to paint a wall with a paintbrush like this. It's going to take you forever and it's not going to be even. If this is all that you have and you are determined to cut your hair with this, I would suggest only trimming up your neck hair and around the ears, like right around here, because that's all this is really designed for. That being said, I highly suggest doing the home haircuts with a clipper and attachable guards. The reason for this is because you will get the most accurate cut with clippers and guards, such as these. Now, the reason that I don't suggest scissors with comb is because, believe it or not, it does take a while, and this might sound ridiculous, but it does take a while to train the muscles in your arms to keep a steady hand. And so I've been noticing that with the scissor cuts, they tend to be very uneven or patchy or whatever it may be. And some people might be watching this thinking, I don't really care, I just want to get a haircut. But this is to try and help people who are trying to get a somewhat decent haircut get away with it until they can go back to the barber. So, use a clipper with guards. The other mistake that I am seeing, especially on these YouTube videos, is people are attempting to do skin fades. They're seeing other barbers do it, or people on there saying, oh, it's so easy to do this skin fade. There's these self-cut systems out there. And then there are other people who are posting that it is not easy to do a skin fade on yourself or on anyone if you have never cut hair before. So that being said, if you're going to use the clippers, always start with the longest attachment first. Do not go up with no guard. This is no guard because it's just the blade. People are going up with no guard and then going, okay, now I have to blend out the line that I just made. For people who have never cut hair before, that's a terrible idea. Start with your highest guard, whether that be I've seen them go up as high as 8, I think, on like home hair cutting kits. 8, 7, 6, 5. If your hair isn't that long, you could start with a 4 or 5. If your hair is pretty long, start with the longest guard if you have an 8. That being said, work your way down. That's going to be your easiest thing. My next tip is if your wife, brother, whoever is cutting your hair for you, don't expect them to be your barber. And what I mean by that is, oh no, my barber gives me a taper. Oh no, my barber gives me a skin fade, or stylist, or whoever it is. They're not your barber. So they're just trying to give you a shorter hairstyle until you can get back to your barber. And so the reason that I mention that is because, again, these videos that I've been seeing show a lot of people say, well, I normally get a skin fade, or I normally get a number 1. And if you want to attempt to do that, you can, and you can be along with all the others who are rocking these haircuts that are half done or not faded or patchy. So again, these are tips that I'm trying to help you get the most satisfying haircut out of the circumstances. So start with the highest guard, work your way down. I don't recommend going down to skin or 1, only because it's very difficult to get it to blend on your own, or someone else trying to do it for you who has never cut hair before. So my suggestion is to go as low as maybe a 2 or a number 1 guard. These are guards. If you have a number 1 guard, maybe go as low as that and just keep up. Maybe if you're noticing in the next 2 weeks and we're not back to normal, which we most likely won't be, then do a number 2 again on the very bottom, or scuff it out with a 1 around the ears and around the neck, because you don't want to just go skin tight and be like, oh, I'll be good until my barber, because no, most people go to the barber every 2-3 weeks. So just keep up with the number 2 or number 1 guard every 2 weeks until you can get back to your barber. That way you're guaranteeing that you're keeping the hair off of your ears, but you're not rocking a Nazi haircut. My next tip is, if you are trimming around the ears and you are doing this yourself, the thing that I have noticed is people are using the entire face of the clipper guard. You don't want to do that, because now you're going up into the hair that you just cut. And typically you want it a little shorter around the ears. That's if you're attempting a somewhat fade. So what you're going to want to do around the ears is hold your ear down and only use the corner of your clippers going around the back side. Because if you use the whole clipper head, if you go around like this, you're gonna end up cutting more off that you didn't want to cut. Now, my other tip is, for the most accurate, best type of haircut you're going to get is just doing 1 length, because you cannot mess that up. And if you really want to do shorter to longer, then just follow the other steps that I just talked about. Start with the longest, work your way down. And as you work your way down with the clips, you're going to go your highest guard here. And when you drop your guard levels, you are also going to drop on your head. With that being said, those are the most tips for fading or cutting the sides. If you don't mind having really short hair on top, go for the clippers on top as well with the highest guard, again, highest setting, and then work your way down if it's not short enough. If you do plan on keeping the top of your hair, because you typically keep your hair longer anyway, then what you're going to want to do is not touch it, because if you try to cut it with scissors, I guarantee you it won't be even. And the worst thing that you can do is comb your hair forward and cut. Don't do that. Now, if you're keeping your hair longer on top and you want to just clean up your sides, then what you want to do is you don't want to just move your hair and start cutting. What you want to do is get the top of your head wet, not the whole thing, just the top of your hair wet with a spray bottle or whatever, and use a comb and section out literally from your temples or just above your temples and section it out and bring it up, and it should stay with just, water, and you comb it over and you hold it down. It should stay that way and you'll be able to get a clean cut on the sides. If it doesn't stay with water, a trick is to use a little gel. You're not going to be cutting your hair anyway on top, so you won't have to worry about the product in it. But the gel will definitely keep it out of your way. You won't end up cutting the top and you'll be just fine. Now, since we're talking about not cutting the top, a big, huge tip that I want to make mention of, because I'm noticing this especially with people who are cutting their hair, because you're doing it in the mirror and it looks backwards, so it can be a little confusing. People are holding their clippers like this. You don't want to hold your clippers like that. You want to keep them level to your head and go all the way up being level. And that's why also it's important to keep the top hair away from the side hair, because if you go straight up and you don't remove your hair is going to get cut. So you want to go straight up and off the head. Do not go to the head. Don't go, with the head like that, because you're going to cut into the head and you're going to end up with a weird egg shape and all of that stuff. So go straight up off of the head and do that all the way around. Do not go up too high in this back section because it's not going to be good. So those are the main tips that I can give you for right now off the top of my head. Those were the main ones that I noticed in the videos that I was watching. Also, one other little tip. Make sure that your clippers, trimmers, whatever you're using, machine, has been oiled. Usually you will get a little oil packet in the box that the clippers came in. Make sure you do that, because that will ensure that your blades are working properly, and if you're using them regularly, you definitely want to do that, because it will keep the life of your clippers as well, and they won't pull your hair. So that is it for my tips right now. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. I also might do a live Instagram feed for anybody who is interested. I also might do another one if people have more questions or would like to see different tips on different things. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful, and let me know what you think, and thanks for tuning in, and you can share this with your friends and everything like that.